Hello and welcome to UC Today. My name is Kieran Devlin and today's session is Elevating Contact Centres to the Next Level with Conversant C360. I'm delighted to be joined by Ads Khan, Head of Service Delivery at Conversant. Ads, thanks for joining us.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me.
Before we explore exactly how Conversant C360 could support contact centres, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, Ads, and your journey with Conversant?
Yeah, sure. So I've been with Conversant coming up to a year now, nearly, and I'm head of service delivery. So it's my job to make sure that day-to-day operations run as smoothly as possible, making sure that our customers are being looked after, we're offering the good level of support they expect from us, and also making sure that our deployments go smoothly too.
Great. And I guess the kicking things off, from your perspective, what would you say are some of the key challenges facing contact centres in 2024?
Yeah, so there's a number of items really within that question, and so one of them is customer expectations has grown massively. What I mean by that is, in this day and age, if you've got technology such as social media, WhatsApp, etc., you've got an omni-channel contact center. The expectation from the customer is this technology should just work. An example of that is bad technology. If bad technology doesn't really work very well, it's even worse when new technology doesn't work at all. So an example is I send a social media message, it doesn't really make it to where it needs to go. Therefore, the communication is just broken down completely. Whereas if you go back to the days of, say, a strictly analog PSTN line, you might get a bit of crackling on the phone, but as long as the audio is legible and everyone can hear each other, you eventually get a message across. So with WhatsApp, with social media, we all expect rapid response times, immediate response. If we don't get that, then obviously that's where the breakdown starts to happen. And so it's key that the technology that customers use actually works the way they intend it to.
And I guess those are the key challenges, and naturally Conversant have produced their own solutions to those challenges, including the one in today's title,
Yeah.
C360.
Yeah, that's right. So, but if I may, so just to touch on the challenges that you mentioned earlier in 2024, particularly, I mean, another example of that would be data and security, data security and privacy. So, well, obviously with GDPR and CPA obligations, it's very, very important that whatever solution the customer opts for is a solution that's a solution of integrity. So making sure that everything's encrypted the way it should be, there's no data leakage, et cetera, et cetera. So we're pleased to say that the solutions that we deploy are very well vetted, but not only are they well vetted, they're very, very easy for us to allow to integrate with other solutions, which we'll come on to when we start talking about the four modules of C360, of course. And also remote work as well. With what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, I think there was a massive shift in, well, not think, we know there was a big shift in people working from home, right? And so it's become very evident that one, people can work from home. And I think a lot of organizations realized, okay, we don't need everybody in the office every single day. And I think that's also why remote work has been massively adopted. And also us being a software as a solution provider, C360 really shines in that department because you're not tied down to one physical location. So if anything, because we're a SaaS provider that provide integration solutions that allow people to leverage Microsoft Teams, the great thing about C360 is you're not tied down to your primary place of work. You can use the contact center anywhere as long as you've got your laptop. So that's really been a key player for us, the remote working aspect of it and the solutions that we provide.
And I guess zeroing in on the contact center module, what makes the Roger365.io contact center different from others?
So it's interesting. So there are some well-established contact centers on the market right now. We chose Roger365.io simply because it's an easy to deploy solution, very easy to get up and running, and it is very configurable for its package. So we tend to work with small to medium enterprise level businesses. That's not to say we won't entertain a larger contract, of course, but what we've seen with our deployments and Roger and the way it integrates with third-party solutions is it's very, very easy to get Roger to talk to X product or product B or product C. It just works very, very well. So as well as agent level routing with some of the other contact center elements, Roger provides a lot of queue level configuration, which is something quite, I wouldn't say unique, but it's one of Roger's USPs, because there are other contact center solutions out there that if you wanted very granular level control, you've got to pay a lot more for, because you're doing that on the agent level, whereas everything's focused on the queue level with Roger. So that's where Roger differs primarily, I would say. But for the most part, yeah, very, very advanced solution. You can deploy some very advanced flows in Roger. We've done some pretty crazy stuff with the integration side of things.
And I guess diving into a bit more detail on the various capabilities that the contact center module can offer, let's start with
Yeah.
the automation and workflow aspects. How does AI help, and what sort of automation and workflow features does the module offer?
So again, talking about the C360 contact center element, which is obviously Roger365, our chosen contact center. In terms of automation workflows, we can have anything from, say, a Power Automate webhook being triggered in the background. Maybe we're getting some data back. So some customers might say, okay, when a call comes in, we want to spit out the records to like a CSV file, or maybe dump a list into SharePoint. But we can go beyond that. We can get something back as well. So we can trigger something to happen. We can wait for something to come back from that third-party solution. And depending on the answer we get back from that third-party solution, we can then implement some call flow logic in the call flow itself. So a good example of that would be, a typical example would be CRM. Is there a match in the record? Yes. Is this a VIP customer? Yes, no. And depending on the results of that response, we can obviously adapt the call flow accordingly to take out the necessary actions. So there's a fair bit of automation that can go on. You touched on AI, and it's definitely a thing that's being pushed a lot more now, especially with Copilot. Everyone knows about ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT. I mean, we all interface with AI in one way or another, whether we know or whether we don't. So if you're using Microsoft Teams, chances are you're using Azure's cognitive services. And so with AI, it's a great way to add real-time translation to your message flows and any audio prompts that you may be playing. So if you're doing any example of that actually is Samsung. Samsung's already using real-time message translation as one of their AI capabilities, and that's something that could also be implemented in our contact center element as well. So that would be one of the AI aspects of it. If you want real-time translation, that can also be done, as well as translating written text to the chosen language and vice versa.
And moving on to maybe some of the flexibility aspects of the contact center module, I was reading about it, it was quite impressive. The level of bespoke work that you guys can produce. Can you please provide some details and examples of that?
Yeah, sure. So Roger365 has a dedicated Microsoft Teams application. So everything lives within the Microsoft Teams app. It's a very, very familiar looking app because it just follows the colors and the theme of Microsoft Teams. So if you're using Teams in light mode or using in dark mode, then the application would respect that color scheme. And then to build on top of that, it just feels very, very native. Once you fire up the contact center application, everything seems to feel like it's a Microsoft Teams application and not necessarily Roger365. So they've done very, very well in that aspect. We've managed to offer development as a service to some of our customers, which allow us to produce very, very bespoke applications that load inside the contact center application. So the unique thing about Roger, the great thing about Roger is we can plug in our development as a service solution into Roger365, and development as a service being the CRM integration piece that we offer with C360. An example of that is a couple of our customers are using Dynamics 365 as their CRM. So we have a custom bespoke Power App application that we've developed in-house as part of C360, which then gets added into the contact center application. And the neat thing there is call comes in, an agent might want to search for a record, update a record, add some notes to CRM contact, so on and so forth. That can all be done within the application itself, within the contact center application, and you don't need to leave Microsoft Teams to do that, which is quite unique. And so that streamlines the entire process of the customer journey from call coming in, picking out the call from the queue, updating notes in the CRM, and then job done. They don't need to leave the Teams application at all, which is quite cool.
And moving on to maybe some of the more practicalities, but I'm really curious to just zero in on that side of things. Like, is it easy to deploy? How does it integrate into Teams? These questions that I'm really curious about.
Yeah, sure. So it's very easy to deploy. I caveat that by saying it's easy to deploy. That isn't to say we don't do any work. Of course, there is some work to deploy the solution, but it is one of the most efficient contact centers that we've seen to get out there and plug into an existing Microsoft Teams ecosystem. So if we're doing a greenfield deployment for a customer of C360's contact center, which is Roger365, very, very straightforward to do. It integrates very, very well. It's just all using the Microsoft Graph API. So it's an extend-based contact center model. Leverages the Microsoft Graph API to literally signal the calls into where they need to go. All the call routing happens over the API. And it uses the SSO of the user that's signed in, so the SSO token. So if you're already signed into your work device, you don't need to log into the contact center application again. Since you're already signed into Microsoft Teams, it's just using your single sign-on authentication token to get you into the application, if that makes sense. And then all the configuration is done on the contact center admin portal in terms of what queue an agent belongs to, so on and so forth. But in terms of giving access to users of the application, it's just a case of adding the application to Teams. If the user has the right to access the application within the admin center, they just click on sign in without entering any credentials, and they're just thrown into the application, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it sounds really intuitive and accessible for even many late. You don't necessarily have to be the most experienced IT admin or manager to interact with the technology. It seems very intuitive.
Yeah, and I think having SSO makes a lot of sense as well, because you're also leveraging Azure's security features as well. So you're not having to remember separate credentials, one set of credentials to get into your laptop and Teams, and then another set of credentials to get into the contact center application. You're just using one single sign-on, which is a great experience.
Fantastic. Well, I guess one final question before I let you go, Ads. Any future developments for either the contact center module or C360?
Yes, so C360 is a management platform that is ever evolving. We're always adding new features to it. We're always finding ways to improve it as well. We've had some pretty good feedback on C360 already. C360, as we're focusing purely on the contact center element of it right now, it does come with advanced analytical reports powered by Power BI, and this is something that we've actually developed in-house. So in terms of the upcoming features for the contact center element of it, though, there are some things which are more AI focused. An example that would be text to speech, which I mentioned earlier. That's going to be AI driven. So anything that is being fed into the AI element of it from a text element will be translated into speech through AI. There's going to be an Azure AI translator as well. So again, real-time translation. There's going to be AI sentiment analysis as well. So customer calls in. Depending on the tone of voice, et cetera, the things that are discussed, there'll be a sentiment analysis score provided for that particular call, which is going to be quite useful because people will be able to use that and store that in their CRM. So whenever they're tracking a customer engagement, they'll also be able to see, okay, what was the sentiment analysis score for this powered by AI? And also things like transcriptions of audio calls and also social message interactions. So whether using WhatsApp, whether using Facebook or web chat, which are one of the three key touch points that Roger365 uses, you'll be able to also produce an AI sentiment analysis of that too, as well as the transcription. So yeah, that's all on the some of that is partly deployed, and some of it is actually on the horizon for the contact center element of it.
Perfect. Well, yeah, a lot on the cards for the next few months for Conversant and C360. I think that's all we've got time for today, but I've really enjoyed today's session, so thank you, Ads, for being here.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share on social media, and we'll see you next time. I've been Kieran Devlin of UC Today. Thanks for watching.